G'day and welcome back to another episode of the Bear of Bull Market Boulevard. Today we're going to be going through the Vanguard index chart. If you're not aware, every year Vanguard will bring out a index chart which shows the returns for a 30-year period, the market returns for a 30-year period on different asset classes. So, for example, the US shares versus Australian shares, international shares, and so forth. Now, we're going to go into quite a bit of detail, but firstly, as you're well aware, if you've watched previous videos on this website or on this channel, all of the information that we provide you, you can find yourself on the internet. So firstly, I'm going to show you how to find it, and then we're going to go into a bit more detail. So first of all, if you jump onto the Vanguard website, no matter where you are, for example, I'm here in Australia, so as soon as I jumped onto Vanguard, first thing that came up automatically directed me to vanguard.com.au, so the Australian website. And as soon as you go there, front of the page, they're obviously promoting their two most popular exchange-traded funds, ETFs, being VAS, Vanguard Australia Shares, and VGS, which is their International Shares ETF. We're not going to talk about that in too much detail today. Today we are really focusing on the Vanguard index chart, and we're going to jump straight into it and see where we can find that. So top right here, you can see tools, and the first thing you're going to see within the tools section is the index chart. So by clicking on this option, it'll take you through to the Vanguard index chart. It'll come with the most recent one, 2023. And right here, you'll be able to download the poster. There is also a bit more information below. So besides the Vanguard index chart, there is a digital index chart, so you can build your own sort of index chart. And if you're an advisor or something along those lines, there are also templates that you can share with clients and so forth. There is also some supporting material, a good article on the importance, good information, fact sheet on the importance of diversification. Very, very important. So if you have time to read it or go through it, do take the time. The second part of the supporting material is an obvious big shout out to the Bear of Bull Market Boulevard, Bull and Bear Markets. No, it's not. And there is a couple other supporting parts of supporting information down there. So anyway, we've already got it preloaded, but if you don't, just click this bit here and it'll come up on your page. So let's get straight into it. So what does the Vanguard index chart show? So before we jump into the actual returns, let's better understand what we're looking at. So very basically, 2023 Vanguard index chart. So this is showing a chart up until 2023. It's also showing you the market returns from the 1st of July 1993 to 2023, which is obviously a 30-year period. The reason it is showing 1st of July to 30 June, for those watching in Australia, that is our financial year. Our financial year is the 1st of July to 30 June. Other countries obviously have that differently, whether it's calendar year or, the UK obviously has a weird one as well. But we are looking at the Australian version. So if we look down here, we're going to zoom in shortly. So, obviously if you can't see this very well, don't worry. I'm also struggling a little bit, but it shows the returns from 1993 to 2003. Up the top here, and we're going to go from the top down, it's actually showing all the Australian Prime Ministers throughout that period. So 1993 to early 1996, we've got Keating, and then John Howard afterwards, and Rudd, so forth. Just below that, it's showing the US, the American administration. So we've got Clinton, Bush, and so forth. Just below this, what we're actually seeing is different economic, as I mentioned at the start of this video, probably there's a lot of different economic, financial, political, and also there's a couple environmental events that have happened. And they've actually listed these, and they've listed them with a little dot point, as you can see here. And if you follow the dot point down, let's use a .com bubble as an example, it will show you what happened to those markets after these critical financial events. Now, following the page down a little bit further provides a little bit more information. So when we're looking at this chart shortly after, what we're going to see is we are looking at the returns of someone who had invested $10,000 in 1993. Now, importantly, read this part. This is very important. With no acquisition costs. So this could mean anything from trades to stockbroking fees, anything along these lines. Taxes, of course, we won't go into detail about that. And any of the income is reinvested. So, for example, if you have an Australian share portfolio, let's just pretend we're talking about the Aussie shares in this example. Any of the shares that you might have received from BHP, CBA, all these sort of shares, they were reinvested back into this portfolio of whatever you've invested the $10,000 into. Down here in the teal, if we drag this across, we should be able to find it is showing the US dollar in comparison to the Australian dollar. And if we track it a little bit further down, this is inflation. So the percentage of inflation, as you can see throughout the years, I'm going to guess this is going to be the early 2000s. What is that? 2000 exactly. And coming across here, we can obviously see prior to COVID, lower inflation, and the last couple of years has been quite interesting. Now, there is a red dotted line throughout this graph. Now, it's a little bit hard to see. I really have to zoom in for that, but hopefully you can see that on your screen. That is interest rates. So this graph obviously stops in June 2023. Since then, we have had rate rises, so the interest rate is obviously a little bit higher. Currently, the cash rate in Australia is 4.35% with the RBA. And this video is being filmed in late November, so we still have one more meeting in December, so we'll see what happens there. But anyway, at this stage, it is 4.35% with the RBA. That doesn't mean that's what you're paying on your mortgage. That's just what the RBA rate is. So depending on which bank you're with, you're probably looking at high fives, low sixes at a minimum. And then most importantly, and this is one of the parts that seems to be missed with a lot of people, but I'd like to point it out. Whenever you see these sort of charts, you wonder, well, okay, how do they know what US shares have done throughout that period? How do they know what Australian shares have done throughout that period? So essentially, let's before we even look at what Vanguard have used to track this data, there are indexes. So in Australia, you've got different indexes like the ASX 200. You've even got the ASX 300. So the ASX 200 is obviously the 200 largest companies, 300 being the 300 largest companies. In America, you've got things like the S&P 500. You've got NASDAQ, these sort of things. But in this case, what they've actually done is when you come down to the bottom of the page here, and in the very small print, of course, it's always in the very small print, they have a correlating number, which if we go over here, I have looked at this chart many times, so I could find it quite quickly. Essentially, if you look here, US shares, there's a small number to the right of it, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 1 there. So it gives us a little bit of an idea what we're looking at. So if we are going to talk about Australian shares, let's just jump over here to make it a little bit easy for us all. Sorry about that. I've actually just moved the page around. What I wanted to do was get yep, there we go. Okay, so what are we going to use? Number 3, the Australian shares. So the Australian shares index that they are tracking is the S&P ASX All Ordinaries Total Return Index. And then let's go with an easy one, just so we can track it after. We'll go to Google and have a look. What's number 5? Number 5 is Australian listed property. So for Vanguard to create this chart and understand the different returns of what Australian listed property has done throughout the period from 1993 through to 2023, they have used, number 5, let's zoom in a little bit more just so you can see that. Number 5, the S&P. So remember, we've obviously talked about this in previous videos. You'll start to really gain a really good knowledge of all the different terms, but essentially S&P Standard & Poor's, S&P, ASX 200, a REIT, Total Return Index. So REITs stands for Real Estate Investment Trusts, and A is obviously for Australia. So they are tracking the Standard & Poor's ASX 200 Real Estate Investment Trust Total Returns Index. And again, you can use that for all the different items that they are looking at. So I'm pretty sure it shows for the bonds, they are looking at there we go, perfect, Bloomberg Australian Bond Bank Bill Index. So it just shows you all the different indexes it's tracking. And again, very easy items to jump onto Google or jump onto Yahoo Finance, any of these sort of items, and just see, okay, what are these items tracking? What do they do? etc, etc. Anyway, I hope that was a really good basic sort of understanding of the Vanguard index chart, how it works, what it does, where to find it, and hopefully from this video you can have a little bit of fun and have a little bit of a play around, look at it. Vanguard actually do send these out in hard copy to a lot of financial advisors, and if you're in the profession, accountants, these sort of things. So if you are in the profession, do reach out to your local BDM and just ask them, hey, can you send me a copy? I remember pretty much every office I've worked at, they had far too many copies floating around. I'm pretty sure when you ask for one, you get 5, but I'm sure there'll be some left over. But thank you very much again for watching this video. From this video, just to let you know, guys, we are actually going to be going through all these little components. So over the next few weeks, I'd like to go through when GST was introduced, the dot-com bubble in a little bit more detail. Certainly like to go through the GFC and a couple of other items in 5, 10, maybe 15-minute videos. But again, thank you very much for watching. Have an absolutely amazing day, guys. Thank you.